throughout the pandemic, the statistic of Black people being laid off and being fired is 3 times higher than any other race. Like, there was just so much things that was happening, and I think people just was like, you know what, let's burn shit down.
You are now watching the Chris LaBelle Show.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good.
Good. Finally.
Yeah.
I get an invite.
Yeah.
After begging.
Pleading.
Arm twisting.
You can't twist his arms.
Well, not literally, but
Metaphorically.
Yeah.
Twist him
got
arm.
in your eye. Played the violet, cry, and you were like, okay, Shu.
Yeah.
If you're gonna beg.
Yeah, if you want to beg.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'll let you on.
You've only done a couple of things in Calgary. A few things.
Little razzle dazzle.
Little razzle-dazzle.
Little something here and there.
Yeah.
Nothing to brag about though. Yeah. Not yet.
You've been doing some things though.
Yeah. Too much sometimes. Sometimes I'm like, I'm tired. Like, when can I just become like a sugar baby? Wrap it up.
We're not even 2 minutes in the show and she's already soliciting herself. She's like, show.
My Instagram is.
Yeah.
No, sometimes I'm like really why do you need to be intelligent? Like, just.
Why do you need to be intelligent?
Like, just.
Yeah.
There's people.
The man or the woman?
No, I'm just saying for me,
generally.
like when you're trying to be an entrepreneur and a, aspiring philanthropist, and you want to be a community advocate, and you want to do all these things.
You've
and
done
it's like,
those things.
I do those things.
You do those things.
I do those things. But then sometimes when it gets so hard and you're tired, and and I told you, serial entrepreneur by day, but anxious hot girl by night, you really just want to give up and be like, when am I going to just make it big on the Shade Room, turn a sugar baby, video vixen,
OnlyFans.
It's
beneath you.
It's pushing it a little bit. But,
I see.
So
what about those women that make like $200,000
a
month?
Yeah, a day sometimes.
200 grand a day?
Yeah.
If you're out there watching right now, I'm willing to do whatever it takes for $200K a day.
No, you're not.
200K?
You're not willing.
Day.
You're not willing to do whatever it takes. Though.
A day?
You're not willing to do whatever it takes. Though.
A day?
You're not willing to do whatever it takes, though.
Yeah. My son's doing the BRoll right now. Son, Daddy will do whatever it takes. Yeah.
He's not willing to do whatever he takes.
He will.
Wow.
I have no shame for 200K a day. As long as it's not like a really bad sin. Like God's not like, dude.
Bruh, then you can say you were willing to do everything because my mind.
Because I've done some sin as shit.
I know, but as a creative, when you tell me you'll do, where my mind goes.
You tell me.
I can't. I don't think I can put that on camera.
We open.
My mama gonna watch this maybe. My granny. Hey granny, what's good? I cannot put that on camera.
There's a Cheryl out. There's an Auntie Cheryl.
There's an Auntie
Cheryl watching.
There's an Auntie Cheryl that about to judge me. I cannot put that on camera. Just know, I don't think you'll do anything.
Guys, a
lot of things.
Yeah, if you're watching this, the live premiere, let me know what you would do for 200K a day for a month. 1 month, what would you do? All right?
Please.
I don't want to hear any kind of too crazy though, but
yeah, please. Children. Guys.
Well, this is an 18+ show.
But still, the children. Please. Don't put everything on there.
My 14-year-old's right there. He goes, tell me what you'll do, Daddy. Can I get a PlayStation 5?
No, we won't do anything. But it's a struggle.
Common these days.
The struggle is real, though.
With everybody.
With real and but I struggle with that sometimes. I'm like, I don't want to do anything.
You don't want to do anything.
No, work is just ghetto.
It's ghetto.
It's very ghetto, but you got to do it. Unfortunately, the dilemma.
Oh, I'm not judging.
No,
I don't. I've made a living with my brain.
Yeah.
I haven't used my hands much, not for the past 25 years or 30 years. I can't imagine. I look at people doing laborious jobs, like blue collar work. I commend those people. When I see city workers out there like 6 a.m. and they're working hard, or guys roofing, or guys doing construction, building homes, framing, guys plumbing. There's every job imaginable is being done by people that we should appreciate more.
Oh, I appreciate. If you're watching, sir, I appreciate a hardworking man.
I will make you dinner 4 times a day.
I'm Jamaican. Awesome chef. A1.
You chef?
Oh my gosh.
Come on.
You're on my Instagram.
I am on that Instagram.
You see what I do.
In there.
You see what I do. He sees what I do.
What's your dish?
I mean, Jamaican. I'm born and raised. I moved to Canada when I was 17. So
you've been You were in Jamaica half your life.
I'm in Jamaica. So I'm real Jamaican. For all you fake Jafakins out there owning Jamaica,
3/4 of Toronto.
you have never jumped a fence. You don't know what it is to do I'm not even going to talk to y'all.
What do you mean jumping fences?
You know what we did in growing up? Like, I remember running from cows.
Cows?
Yeah.
Angry cows?
Dogs? I hate dogs because of Jamaica. Dogs in Jamaica are thugs. They're criminals. It is organized crime. Those dogs in the communities are weird.
Where are you from in Jamaica?
I am from Portmore, so St. Catherine. Most people just would say Kingston because it's just easier.
Yeah.
But Kingston is a whole different parish from St. Catherine. So I come from St. Catherine. I was born in Kingston, though. I was born in the hood, but my mother quickly said, no, we're moving out. So I grew up in St. Catherine, Portmore. Yeah. So yeah.
Was it rough?
You know what? To be honest with you, my mom did everything she could do, and I never felt like a poor kid. All my friends that I grew up with were poor, and I used to spend sometimes summers in the hood with my family, or I'd go to my best friend's house that both live in, like, you know, different hoods, as you would say. But I never felt poor. I think my mom did all that she could do. Actually, I remember when I was 8, my mom took me to this 5-star restaurant. It was like a la carte dish, like everything. And she said to me, the whole experience, like the appetizer, the entree, the dessert cart that come around, the fake, or the grape juice put in wine glass, like gave me the whole experience. And she leaned over the table and she said, this is what a date should look like. Don't ever make a man take you to Burger King and convince you that's a date. I swear to you, I'm not making up that story.
So these standards are high now.
So the standards are, I wouldn't say high, but they are what they should be.
Reasonable.
They're reasonable. She just wanted me to know, like, don't get impressed by silly things and gifts. And I still did it. Sorry, Mom. I still got impressed by the silly things. You're a young girl, right? I got impressed by the bags and the shoes, but I wasn't impressed by the Burger King. That was a standard that would never break, but I would get impressed by other things.
I brought you Donaire before the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't think are you trying to, you're just being nice. You're just being a gentleman. It's different.
I feed my guests.
Yeah. But
I randomly, I don't know, I just watched Don't Mess with the Zohan and I suddenly had like this
Yeah,
like
it's a whole
Middle
different
Eastern
thing.
thing going on. I'm driving by and I'm like, Donaire.
Yeah, I loved it. It was really good.
Delicious,
but
eh?
It was so
Jerusalem
good.
shawarma. What's up?
Very good. But yeah, I think she was just trying to teach me in her best way of not being impressed by small things.
Little things.
Yeah. And I think I took that to some extent. But being young, influenced by social media, your friends, wanting to fit in.
That's big these days because there wasn't social
Oh
media
my
coming
gosh.
up. When you were 8 years old, there was no one. You weren't Instagramming and Snapchatting
No.
your TikTok, your story
Yeah.
of your grape juice.
But
right?
there was a culture that older men, and I mean, it's still a thing, but in the Caribbean, very, very predominantly, and I think also in Africa, that old men would use their money and their wealth to entice younger women. And I'm not talking like 10 years younger, 5 years younger. I'm talking significantly younger, like
20 plus.
yeah, like a 12-year-old, right? So I think it was her way of also trying to protect me from not being like, oh, this old man's flashing a cell phone in front of me or flashing a meal at McDonald's or Burger King. And I'm like, ooh, I'm gonna, and then now you're being basically taken advantage of without knowing. So I think she was looking at it from a protective standpoint because she grew up in the hood where that was a regular occurrence. So I think that was really what she was trying to do, was just not wanting me to be impressed by things to be taken advantage of at a young age.
So you brought up the word integrity earlier.
Yeah.
So she was helping you create that integrity, build that integrity.
Yeah, I think, I guess so. I think,
Do you still hold those that integrity now? Like, do you feel that poise, like that? Like, do you find
absolutely
yourself?
more than then. I think when I was 20, I think in my teenage years, in my 20s, I was a lost girl.
Yeah.
I think I was able to mask it very well. And I think because I was always able to, I'm eloquent and I'm able to hold a crowd and I knew better. I knew the theory, but the practicalities where I got lost. Yeah.
This is part of your structure, your makeup, your ID.
Yeah.
You were raised with integrity. You were raised to want more.
Yeah.
You were raised to have expectations that you're not some $5 date. You're a woman.
I think it goes deeper than that for me. I think it's that spiritual background. Like you know, for the love of money is a root of all evil. Like I genuinely believe that. And I believe that people will, and I think people say when they think of the idea of selling their soul, they literally think it's like you make this contract and you prick your hand with the blood, but selling your soul is whatever you make into your God, is whatever you will literally do whatever to get. Like you will literally exchange your whole integrity, your identity, your values, whatever you think or you say that you are grounded in for an opportunity. That is in itself selling your soul.
Are you religious?
I don't like the word religious.
You're spiritual.
I'm not spiritual either. I have a personal relationship with who I consider to be God.
Wow.
And I don't say God because not everybody views God the same way. So I'm very intentional about who my God is. It might not be someone else's God. So I don't like the word religious because I think religious is me being religious and doing the same thing over and over and over, but not really having the relationship. I tell people that I would more believe that my mother is a simulation of the world before I believe that God isn't real. You know, and that's just for me, right?
No, man, I'm Catholic. I got this crucifix on my arm and whatnot.
Yeah.
I watched my mama pray every day before she passed with the Bible and her rosary and all that jazz. I've been to church for a million times, but now, you know, being around a lot of Muslim people lately, well, not all my whole life I've been around them, but as of late, you know, my fighter Ali Sharkey is Muslim, and you know, a lot of my close friends are, and their influence has kind of taken hold of me. Like I've, you know, quit drinking. Like intoxication, I can't even tell you the last time I've been intoxicated from alcohol.
Right.
You know, if I do have a drink, it is a drink, and it is a celebration of one drink. I've removed pork out of my diet as an Italian, but I also was like, as a human being, I just don't find the necessity to consume it. It just doesn't really service me any longer. It becomes your
God. And the thing with the
even the haram shit, like toying with women and being a woman, as you're like dating and having frivolous sex and all that kind of action.
But you know, Muslim, like
the
Abraham, what they would call it, like you have the Muslim and Christian and Judaism, right?
Yeah.
If you look at a lot of the basis, it's all kind of the same basis. Because if you look at it, Abraham's first and second son, Ishmael and Isaac. So I know some things, you know, Ishmael and Isaac. So really they came from the foundation of the same God. It's just a breakaway that there is the recollection of the events change in both view, but how I view God is from that is Israelites' foundational understanding of who our God is.
That's cool.
So yeah, I think
being Jamaican, what about Jah and all that?
No.
Jazz? No relation.
Yeah, like I'm not Rastafarian. And again, like even when you look at certain aspects and elements of the Rastafarian religion, it's the same thing. It's just there is always this like just difference in small, and not in small, but in events and who's actually God. Is it Yahweh? Is it Allah? Is it
Jesus?
But Jesus, the thing with the word Jesus, there's no J that actually translate in the Hebrew language. So it was through translation where the word Jesus became a word, but it actually comes back to Yah. It is actually Yahweh.
David Brunning told me that.
Yeah.
You know David Brunning, the artist? Yeah, he was on the show.
So
taught us about that.
Jesus is actually Yeshua.
Yeshua, I've learned that, yeah.
Yeah, and Yeshua is another word for Joshua. So it's not, Jesus is just through the translation, but there's so many names for God. And you know, Adonai and Elohim and all these other words. So
Preach, Habibi.
You know, your girl knows some things, y'all. So
that's very cool.
But I don't really get into it with a lot of people because I think it's something like I don't debate. It's like how I would not debate about my mother. I don't debate about my God.
Sure.
I take it very personal. So I think a lot of people, they ask questions because they're trying to find holes in your belief. They want you to prove it to them. And God do say to study, to find yourself approved. So you should know what you're talking about. But I'm not going to argue with someone just so you could tell me I'm talking crazy. If you don't believe, we all have our free will. You don't believe, stay over there. But don't come to me and then trying to knock what I believe.
Man, back in the 70s in the Middle East, they used to have, you'd have a Catholic church next to a synagogue, next to a mosque. And prayer was usually around the same time. And these people, I mean, this was in Iraq, this was in Beirut, this was everywhere, Afghanistan, like all these people had their religions working together. There was LK sometimes will pop up when I talk about facts, but there's footage, there's content that shows that during the 70s and stuff, like these religious temples were together, not together as one, merged as one,
but everybody was just doing what they believed.
They do what they was doing.
And I think in the culture right now is that people want to put onto you what they believe, and they want this monolithic kind of like herd mentality. You know what I mean? Like the world is really based on herd mentality. And
not in Canada, not during this pandemic, no herd mentality.
No, there is a herd mentality. I think
here in Canada,
just in general, people, like, for example, okay, so you know that street by the university, the 16th, I don't even know.
Oh, you mean the main, like the highway?
Yeah. So you
that's
know
Crowchild.
So you know how Crowchild, there is that road you could go down,
that little back one,
and then you had the back one that passed the university.
Yeah,
mind you, both of those roads leads to the same place, but everybody is willing to sit in line in the longer route because they see another car go, and then another car go, and then another car go. So you end up sitting in traffic for 20 minutes. But if you had just divert off from what everybody else was doing and seeked another way, you got there way quicker. You got to where they were trying to get to 10 minutes earlier. And it's
Calgary
human.
used Calgary traffic analogy to describe life direction and journey.
Literally. But see, this is the kind of person that I am. I watch things. I watch behaviorism. I watch consumerism. I watch how people think. I watch how people respond to things. I watch verbal and nonverbal. I watch these things.
Sociology.
Yeah. I just hate reading. But I watch.
She's not into work and she into reading.
You know what I'm saying?
But she will tell you about religion in the opening part of the podcast, which I mean is very impressive.
I read.
You do read,
but I'm just saying, like, I'm not going to sit here and like I read books after books after books after books, because I feel like
retain the important information.
I feel like retain the information, but I'm also a seer. I take in things. I stand in the moment. Where do you see from?
When I
watch people,
where do you see? Do you see from here? Where would you say you watch? Is it more of a feeling or a sensation?
I think I'm seeing physically and spiritually. When I say I'm a seer, I'm not like I think I'm this elevated spiritual guide, but I think I just question the why of the why. And I watch people and I watch the things that people don't say. Like when I'm judging a human being, I'm not only looking at the things that you say, but I'm looking at the things that you don't say. I look at your intention. I look at your impact. I flip it 100 ways, and I play fool to catch wise many times. I'm like, I don't know, because I want to see what you're going to do with that. I also like giving people the rope and telling them to walk.
Wow, that gives somebody enough rope to hang themselves with. They will.
Yeah, and I don't want you to hang yourself, but I want to see what you're going to do with it. I just watch. I throw things and I watch, and I just watch people to see what they're going to do. And I listen to people, and people think I mostly listen to what is not said. The information that you choose to leave out for whatever reason, whether to make yourself look great, whether to try to propel a facade that you're trying to cover up, whatever it is, but I'm watching it.
So you see through the bullshit.
Yeah, and that's the reason why I stay by myself. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people, again,
so
like,
you don't do the herd mentality. You're more of like just keep it tight in the pack.
Yeah, and you know what? Like I could move. I'm big on community. So I don't want people to also get it confused, me talking about herd mentality versus community. Yeah. Community is important. Support is important. But community is about being in like-mindedness.
Yes.
How do we see things, not necessarily the same, identical, but it's complementary at least. So I believe in community, but I don't believe in herding.
You do believe in community. That's pretty much what you do. That's how I follow you. That's how I stayed in touch with you. That's how I know what you're up to.
Yeah.
Because any social activity, any community-driven event, anywhere where Calgary needs support and a platform and representation, you have facilitated that.
Yeah, I mean, and I think I try to challenge the things.
Be it art, be it fashion, be it a movement.
Yeah,
that you were part of.
Yes, and I think with that last year was crazy for me, man. Last year was crazy. It was a crazy time because I think, okay, so with when the protests and, you know, when George Floyd was killed, it sparked a worldwide uproar. And to be honest, though, one of the main we've seen thousands of George Floyd. Let's just make that very clear.
Oh yes,
George Floyd was not a one-off situation that we have never seen something like this. So then all of a sudden we're so outraged. I think it was coupled with the fact that people were just on their mental break, and a lot of people really wanted to just get out and just unhinge. So everything just happened where it was just like a ripple effect. Right, because right before George Floyd, that there was Ahmaud Avery and Breonna Taylor, and they didn't get that same response. But George Floyd was just that. It was just back to back to back, and then people were like, you know what? Forget this. We've been locked in the house for now since March till this is July. This is June, right? People are just ready to get out. And I think because the reaction was so great, because at that time everything was heavily being broadcast on social media.
Yeah.
So the world saw the response of people in a different way that they've never saw it before.
There was anger.
It was a lot of anger. It was a lot of anger. And again, it wasn't for George Floyd. It just was the fact that it was just anger all around. You know, throughout the pandemic, the statistic of Black people being laid off and being fired is 3 times higher than any other race. Like, there was just so much things that was happening. And I think people just was like, you know what, let's burn shit down. Now, what you saw is, again, that herd mentality. So you're seeing on social media on Shade Room, where first it was Texas who was in the protest, and then in London and this, and everybody's like, when's the next city? Then Toronto, then this, and then everybody in their cities, like, everybody's protesting. It's not just about the city in which it happened. Now, every city, it caught a fire. So when Calgary came down to Calgary, my first initial thing was, man, I'm not doing this shit.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it, because if y'all is doing it just to say for George Floyd, and you are not going to use this opportunity to talk about what happens in your own backyard, I'm not with it. I had so many people reach out to me the minute and was like, Shu, you should organize a protest. And I was like, for what? And I'm not talking about Black people. I'm talking about non-Black people that wanted to that are culture vultures out here, because there's a lot of y'all.
Culture vultures.
Which one of these cameras can y'all zoom up on?
We can put you both on that.
Zoom up on me right now.
Yeah.
A lot of culture vultures out in this world.
What is the definition of a culture vulture?
That just, that tries to capitalize off Black culture and sufferation. Yeah, you. But anyways, I digress. There was a lot of people that's like that out here. So there's a few of them that reached out to me, and they wanted to, like, you should do a protest. And I'm like, for what? First of all, why are you reaching out to me? But
is Calgary known to be culture vultures, or is that just a global thing?
I think it's a global thing. I don't know if it's Calgary, the specific city. I think Calgary, because there isn't, and when I say Black culture, it's not very known and understood what Black, like, being submerged into what Black, like, hip hop culture. Most people have to watch it on TV. A lot of people who understands or try to perpetuate hip hop here is because they watch MTV, they watch BET, they study the artists, and they try to then, try to emulate that. But I grew up where you actually sat on the stoop and the beatbox, and you're really seeing that, like, all the things that people try to emulate here, I grew up in, literally, whether it was in Jamaica or it was in the States, because I lived in the States. I grew up in Jamaica. Yeah, like my dad used to live in New Jersey.
Whoa.
Yeah, Polat.
So you met some Italians in the day.
No, that's a different part of it. I'm talking like Polat close to like Philly, like 10 minutes from Philly. Whoa. And like I live in like Pensauken.
Really?
Like that part of like 41st Street type of stuff. Like that's where my father lived. And then I used to like freaking like...
How long were you in the States for?
Back and forth. Like every time I went to like a year in school, and then me and my dad wouldn't get along. So I would go back home.
You spent a year in the States.
Back and forth, like, yes, and then I would go back, and then I come back, and then go back, and then come. Like, cool. It was crazy, very, very unstable time. And then my mom was like, "You can't do it." But then before that, I have cousins that lived in New York, so you go to visit in New York, Boston, Philly, Miami. Like, I spent a lot of time growing up doing the double hopscotch, and the all of that stuff, and going to the
African American culture.
Going to the bodegas, like I grew up doing those things. So it's naturally in me. And then growing up in Jamaica, it was very similar to that, like the corner store, sitting on the stoop, sitting on the corner, a lot. We're known for music. So like guys would just be there, and like somebody would just start a beat, and then all of a sudden it's a rap battle, rap cipher in the middle of the street at 10 o'clock at night. Like, We had street dance. Like, so I grew up in what community really is. Like, everybody knows everybody. You literally, like, you could discipline this person's kid. Like, I just have a different understanding of what Black culture and Black excellence and hip hop and, you know, being that rich culture is. So it's not here. Everybody, most people that sees it here watched it on TV.
So when you say it's not here,
yeah,
what do you mean here? Where is here?
In Calgary, Alberta, Canada, but very much so Calgary, because I think...
Preach, it's good. You say
no,
that.
I think in Calgary, most of the time, it's what they see. Like, a lot of... They eliminate Toronto. Like, Toronto is the mecca for Canada, right?
Thanks to the Raptors.
And Toronto also emulates New York. So it's still like something that I think Black culture was just hidden from the people here. We were always told that we're just immigrants. We came here way later when your parents came from Africa and the Caribbean.
Yeah.
They've erased how fundamental Black people are in Canadian history. So the kids growing up in Canada, the kids growing up in particularly Calgary, being Western and conservative, they don't understand Black culture and excellence. There's not a level of excellence expected out of Black children here. The way how they care, like, you know, when back in the day before Instagram became so popular, even hair, nails, makeup, skincare, like, kids didn't know. You grew up in the States, you can't step outside looking crazy. You're going to get roasted.
Yeah.
For sure. Like, there's just certain things you had to learn quickly because it was depending on your survival. Like, I couldn't go to a party and look busted. The next day at school, it's done. You're done for. You are done for. And in this, and also in the States and mostly in Jamaica, I could say there was no such thing as bullies. Everybody was a shark. It just depends on who's going to be the bigger shark that day. So you had to, and you couldn't fight. So you had to know how to roast with your words. You need to know how to punch and kick with your words to make it hurt. So just there's certain things that you grow up knowing in the Caribbean, you just don't learn here.
See.
You don't grow up in the States that you just don't know here. So it's just a far-fetched things to a lot of people here.
Of Black culture has been learned through media, through television,
absolutely,
through content, TV, movies,
they didn't grow up on
series.
that. Yeah, they didn't grow up on that. You can't tell me you grew up on the block how y'all gonna sing about the block and the corner and the
fruit fly.
Right.
The little fruit fly came out of nowhere. I'm like, how does there a fruit
we're
fly?
all like, what is this? Like, yeah, like you singing about something you really don't know. You never really experienced.
I get it.
You don't know hip hop. There's people that come up from the same corner that Biggie came from, and DMX came from, and Tupac came from. So like, they really know what they're talking about. You just watched it and studied it and then tried to emulate it. While when you grow up in something, it's something that becomes a part of you. It's literally in your bloodstream. Like, really it is. Yeah. So I think one of the hardest things for me is to be able to identify, right? Because I'm like, I can't see how you find it so difficult in engaging in these things. And it's because it was never a normalcy to you. So what I've done is, through one of my company, the All Things Bossy brand, is trying to really give people a true sense of what that culture, Bossy. The All Things Bossy brand, the All Things Bossy brand.
And that's your brand.
That's my brand.
I like it.
One of my companies. I like to call it my community. So, is that what I do? I try to really give people that real sense.
You're a businesswoman.
Yeah.
You're an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
You're a startup.
Yeah.
You work hard. You're cultured. You've been around. You've seen things.
I've seen things. I've been a part of things.
You've participated as well.
I've participated in things.
And you've led.
Yes. Like I was one of the people that led the protests last year.
You did.
Yeah.
I saw you speak.
Yeah.
I was inspired. It was electrifying. Like I caught you down in East Village. And that was a big one that day.
Yeah.
Down in East Village.
That was the first one, the Monday.
Everyone put the black square up.
The Monday. Yeah.
Everyone had their square up on social media. And and my son and I came up on our bikes, and you just started. You just got into your
That
speech.
day was crazy, man. Because I led the protest from the beginning to back around a loop back to East Village on the other side. But like I said, I feel like we've kind of dived into a bunch of stuff. But I got involved with the protests simply for the fact of, I needed to make sure that we were just not going to focus on what happened to George Floyd, to understand that there's many George Floyds in Canada that people don't even know about. not only for the Black community, but also for the Indigenous community.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
And I mean, in that particular time, I was talking about the Black community, but you can't go without mentioning that, right? But it's like you couldn't. I think people were so focused again with that herd mentality. We're going back into that herd mentality. People were so focused on just like, say his name, George Floyd, and I was like, yo, you're not, these things are happening to people in your city. So I spent my entire time when I was protesting to bring that awareness back to the city. Like I would bring that awareness back. Like we need to put pressure on the mayor, on the government to make sure that these things are not just gonna, it was a one small chance to get in. So I had to, instead of talking about it, like I'm not engaging, like all y'all want to talk about is George Floyd. This is going to be done in 6 months. I mean, mind you, it did, but what we were able to turn our eyes to in that 6 months, if we were not intentional about talking about our city, if everybody in the same conversation started in Toronto and Vancouver, people like, no, y'all need to stop making Canada seem like an afterthought when it comes to racism. And then Canada starts showing their ass. They always did, but increasingly, once that nest was woken up, you saw the explicit racism coming out, and then the government was like, oh, I thought we were a mosaic of culture here.
Well, I was here when it was,
sorry, Trudeau, no, you're not.
Well, I was here when it was a melting pot. They referred to Canada as a melting pot. Then multiculturalism was the big word for 20 years. And then suddenly diversity. As like, you know, now that's like everything is shortened and quick, and it doesn't have it just kind of gets to the point. We're diverse. That's it. Like we're at a melting pot. This isn't multiculturalism. It's just diversity. And you know,
and that's what corporations do. And so one of my
other opened the door. You guys opened the door towards the treatment towards First Nation people. And especially the Indigenous women. And it was like BLM.
But the thing with Indigenous women is like they've been fighting for hundreds of years. So when
since colonization.
So when Canada's like, we're a multi-nation, we're this, I'm like, bruh, but what do you, look, with residential school, when they started to find the bodies of those children and everybody was like, clutch my pearls. I was like, sweetheart, this has been happening for centuries. Stop playing with these people. Like, stop doing it. So BMM was that next moment, clutch my pearls. You were feeling, was this something that was happening to you, Shu? I can't believe racism. Like a lot of white fragility and a lot of performatism and a lot of formality, just checking boxes was a thing. And it's still a thing. But last year I was hot bread. So everybody wanted a piece of Shu.
Culture vulture.
Everybody wanted to have me on their show, do a workshop for them, do this, do that, do this. Everybody wanted me because I was that girl. And then when they realized that I wasn't going to speak the same repeated, rehearsed narrative, when I wasn't going to use the same words of the EDIs and the diversity and the this, when they realized that I wasn't going to tell them what they wanted to hear, then it was like, oh, we're going to have to work. We're going to have to actually look at our biases. Ooh, we don't want to do that. Who's the next girl can we call? Who's the next person that's going to come in and tell us what we want to hear? And mind you, I believe in leading with love and leading with grace and leading with empathy, but I also believe in leading with accountability. 100%. I don't believe that you need to do one or the other. I believe that you could do all because before I'm Black, before I'm a woman, I'm a human being. Humanity. And a lot of times people want to forget that. And I'm like, that's why we're going nowhere fast. That's why as a human race, we go nowhere fast because we want to lead with everything else except for where the core is in your humanity. Racism is two things. It's spiritually and scientifically charged. It's not just, I don't like you because you're white, or I don't like you because you're Black, or I don't like you because you're Indigenous. It's so much more strategic and planned and intentional than we even know.
Well, yeah.
So when people are like, oh, you're just racist, I'm like, you know what racism is? Don't mix up prejudice with racism. A lot of people mix up being prejudiced with racism. Racism is a way bigger thing than it is to be prejudiced. Like, there are elements that must be involved. Racism is an act of violence, an explicit violence. And it is something that is a socioeconomic structure that one must have privilege, power, resources, coupled with the color of their skin to get away with something. That is what racism is. So when people are like, oh, anybody can be racist, I'm like, no, because racism is meant for one person or one set of people to harm and other to be the ones that are being harmed.
Is it premeditated?
I think
Is it something that
it is ingrained. It's something that you're primed. There's association. There's levels of conscious and subconscious behaviors that people are taught from your TVs to everything in colorism. There's a lot of things. So I do like
we're conditioned.
You're very conditioned. But I think explicit racism is something that is at some point, it is premeditated. You can't do something and say, oh, I wasn't being racist. Yes, you were. The problem is to find out where your priming and association came from.
Does the ignorance bother you? Like, I mean, ignorant racism where someone doesn't even realize that they're actually racist. They're just ignorant being about it. And
I don't even give people that excuse.
That's why I asked about the premeditated. Like, you know what I mean? Like someone that's intentionally being racist as opposed to somebody just not having any experience and just being ignorantly racist.
Yeah, I don't give people that excuse.
So it's just racism.
You're racist. I'm sorry. Like, I'm not going to say,
first.
I'm not going to say that you are intentionally, unintentionally racist. And because the thing is, once you start putting intention, you start negating the impact. Now you want me to focus on what you coulda, woulda, shoulda meant versus what you did. And I'm not going to allow you to do that. If you did it, you did it. And that's what we're going to talk about. Yeah. I'm not going to be like, well, it was an accident. You did it. And that's what we're going to focus on. If you now don't want to continue doing it, now we could have a conversation of first identifying where you learned those things and then how you don't continue to perpetuate those things. But if you want me to just stop at, I didn't know and that wasn't my intention, you're going to have to get all the way out of my face with that.
So take ownership.
Period. Because if you don't mean it, according to you, then why is it so
not
difficult? But, you know, just according to that person, not you, not Chris, but according to that person, if you don't mean it, then why is it so hard to say, I didn't mean it, I'm going to take ownership and learn from it? But the fact that you don't want to take ownership from it, that means you don't think something is wrong. And if you don't think something is wrong, then you're intentionally want to be racist. Circles back to the same point.
That's great. That's a great explanation. That's a great way to describe it. Because there's a lot of people that probably have that going through their heads.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like they don't know how to describe that. They don't understand the process. Yeah. You know? And that is a very simple way of saying it. Doesn't matter if it was blatant, doesn't matter if it had intent, doesn't matter if it was ignorant, you just being racist. And as soon as you take ownership and then try to move forward and not be that person and focus on humanity.
The problem with that,
you're talking about just simple old humanity, regardless of skin color.
Facts. But the problem with that, though, why people sometimes shy away from onus is the delivery. That's where the humanity part comes in. At the end of the day, if I can determine that somebody did or said something and I could see their intention, I'm going to deal with them with the same respect. A lot of times there's some instances where we don't have to be angry and shouting and yelling and perpetuating more harm. It's not going to yield any results. If you're coming in with an idea of reconciliation and growing, then you have to meet people with empathy, love, and support.
That's a relationship.
Now because at the end of the day, you want this person to change. Yeah. But if that's not what you want and you want to perpetuate anger and harm, you're not going to get that from somebody. If somebody comes to me, I believe there's two types of communication. There's accusatory and exploratory. When I talk about accusatory and exploratory, comes back to the first point that I'm trying to make. I want to engage in conversation with you. If I'm not trying to engage in conversation, if I feel like you're being explicitly violent and racist and I don't feel like I want to engage with you, then if I need to, whatever it is that I need to do, then that's what we're doing. But if I choose, this is the people who choose to engage in conversation with people. If you're not trying to engage and you're just trying to punch somebody out and do what you need to do, then cool. Because you're not trying to talk. But once I sit in a room and say I'm going to talk to a person, I'm going to give that conversation the best chance it has to succeed. That's how I look at it.
That's diplomacy.
Yeah, I'm not trying to get into a conversation only for it to go left because I'm coming in there with a combative agenda. For what? Why do I need to waste my time to hire my blood pressure?
Yeah.
leave
Stress.
triggered, leave even more traumatized. If it comes, then it comes. But my intention entering into conversation is to get to reconciliation. Other than that, I'm not talking to you. It's either I have nothing to say to you, I'm telling you straight up, I don't like you, don't talk to me, don't move around me, keep it pushing, or that's just that. You know what I mean? But I think when people try to engage in conversation just to throw fume on the why, you're wasting your time. But
I mean, in today's day and age, we are distracted.
yeah,
We are all oppressed now with the pandemic. We're all feeling a mandate, restrictions, control, freedoms being stripped, whether it's for the safety, for health benefits, or for whatever the agenda is, propaganda, constant conditioning. Like, I mean, BLM was the last noise aside from COVID, and it's been nothing but COVID conversations, and it just
they overwatch BLM to just enough of that, back to COVID.
Yeah.
And then even when we look at what the conversation we're looking at, like the indigenous, that was a conversation, but then slit because again, our mind and our grasp to even look at things that challenges even your privileges and so forth.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to talk about that.
Nobody wants to be responsible for what happened.
No.
Right? It wasn't me. It wasn't it wasn't mine.
Well, it's not that nobody wants to be responsible. I feel like the ones that should be responsible are now trying to share the responsibility with people that don't
They've
own
been
that
paying off the First
responsibility.
Nation people since day one. As soon as they put them in residential schools,
A
here's
lot of
this money.
colonizers
It's not just here.
has been colonizing colonization now. Don't let that go over your head.
Yeah, I know, because
Okay?
I'm like, hold on a second. Colonization.
That has been the trend for 2020 to 2021.
Okay.
They found a new way how to colonize people by colonizing colonization. Literally, look at the narratives and look at the things that are said. The same
You're gonna have
way.
to break that down a little bit
Let's
more.
break it down.
Colonization.
Yes, that's exactly now what they're doing.
What
And
is-
the reason,
what is
what I mean when I say that is, look at the narrative. Language, racism, and oppression lives in language. You tell a lot about what a person is about and what a person feels by what they say. Literally, it's the first point of entry to knowing a man's mind is the things that comes out of his mouth. So when I see and I look at the narrative, if you read it, it's very much so as this kind of it's a very collective. We people need to shut up and listen. First of all, remember when they were talking about BLM? The first thing they talked about, first of all, the fact that they called it BLM problematic. First problem. BLM, not generations of slavery, chattel slavery, you're going to just dwindle down to BLM. No, could not be. But okay, we digress. 2, this narrative of people need to shut up and listen. Who is the people? A lot of people that was writing those things were also white people.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of the words, the narrative, the word BIPOC, people try to make it try to say, oh, it was a black woman who coined it. No, it was white people and white activists and white liberations who created these narratives, trying to feed their own guilt and fragility. If you look at the words, we need to shut up and listen. We are shutting up and listening, and people just repeated it over and over. We don't need you to shut up and listen. We need you to do something. So it was even just like colonizing of what narrative to say, what to say. All of a sudden I was a POC and I was a BIPOC.
You were labeled.
To
classify.
The word BIPOC is literally the most racist thing somebody could say to me.
What does BIPOC stand for?
Black, Indigenous, People of Color.
Oh.
So what BIPOC is a hierarchy of struggle. So universally, what they're saying is Black people struggle the most, then Indigenous people, then everybody else. People of color. They didn't even bother to mention Chinese, Indian, nobody else. So either you're Black, Indigenous, and then everybody else. Oof. But then the question is also, if we are all a part of the BIPOC, then what are white people? What is the abbreviation for that? Well, shoot, there's no abbreviation for white people, obviously, because they're telling you, I am the base and you're the other.
Yeah.
We are the base, and then everybody else is a BIPOC.
So they've already put you on a scale at the bottom.
Not only
of
a
the
scale,
they're
telling
included you with indigenous
and everybody. So they're saying
so
you
it's
all,
us, and then the rest of y'all.
and then the rest of y'all. But then in the rest of y'all, the Black people struggle the most. Then the Indigenous people. Then everybody else. Indian, Chinese, their all struggles are the same. So I'm going to put you in a category, but then tell you who struggles the most in that category.
But then you're saying, but what are white people? Like, where do they rank in this?
But no, not even that. What is their abbreviation?
What is their abbreviation?
There's none. There's no abbreviation for white people. Why? Because we're the base. We are not the minority. We're not the racialized. We're not the other. We are the base. That is what that word tells you. You are an abbreviation because you are collectivied with everybody else, but we are the base. And then we could get into so many things, but it's just like, you just look at, these are the things
you had this conversation
plenty of times.
So it's almost second nature for you to have this discussion.
Not really nowadays. I choose to focus.
It's constructed.
It's constructed. Like, if I'm talking about it, I'm gonna break it down to you.
It's
like,
educated.
If somebody tells me, as BIPOC, I'm like, we're not BIPOCs.
Yeah.
We're not the same.
So even that person's trying to put you into that.
I've had people who was like, as a woman of color, I'm not a woman of color. Don't call the word color, y'all, just so you know, who's watching, everybody's watching, is a politically correct word for the N-word. During the time of segregation in Jim Crow law, and there was white schools, colored schools, white water fountains, colored water fountains. So it went from the N-word with the ER to color to then the N-word with the RO. That was, and then it went to African American, then it went to just black. So it's a politically correct word. My
mother was from a generation when, because my son's godfather is Trinidadian, and so my mom didn't know how to, she's old school Italian,
Yeah.
She didn't really know, and I'm like, Ma, he's black. She's like, oh, I can't say black, and I'm like, Ma, he goes by black. Well, what about negro? And I'm like,
yeah.
Well, they don't. Ma,
exactly.
We don't say negro anymore. She's like, you don't say it? I'm like, well, I don't want. But then my mother didn't want to. I can't call him black. Like, she was like, that's so bad. And so my mother identified as the word black, calling black people black as bad.
It's bad.
And she's like, but we call them negros. And
Yeah.
my mom's like, what do you mean?
The Negro League, it was a politically correct. It was literally like like a migration of like what can be more palatable. Right? So it started with just like nigger, then colored, then Negro, then African American, then you're black. So when people say I'm a woman of color, it's like, no, sweetheart. Like, someone told you that and you ran with it. Nobody chose the word color. You can't tell me a black woman coined it when it was being called about black people before she was born. It's crazy. Her grandmother was called color. Her great grandmother probably was called colored. And what it went from is being colored to color. So it went from being singular to plural. That's all it was. They said, okay, well, not only black people are now colored, it's now people of color. So now everybody who's not white, again, base and other, is colored. Y'all, we have to wake up to see that while we are playing checkers, the people who are perpetuating racism is playing chess. They're not stupid. Like I said, this is heavily scientific and spiritually charged.
Malcolm X made notion of this back in his day.
Yeah,
talked about like that those who control the media control the narrative, and if you like, not in those terms, but primarily saying like whoever controls the media controls the narrative, and those who control the narrative may not be good people, and then you'll turn good people against bad, good people against good people, and put bad people into power by controlling the narrative. That's pretty much what he was saying in that statement. And you know what? It's never been more true than to this day.
And when you couple that with a herd mentality. That is where the danger is. You look at social media, you look at TikTok, you look at Shade Room, a catchy song happens, a catchy dance happens, and everybody's doing it. The crate challenge, people was dying.
Oh, yeah.
Crate. A woman, you know how many people died?
Yeah. Dominic, thank you for not doing the crate challenge.
I
was so worried that Dominic was going to do the crate challenge.
Yes.
I was like, man,
Our kids, like, people broke their necks, concussion, for what? To just have a video?
You said our people.
Our people, as in like people in general.
People in general,
just
humanity.
People. But black people, y'all was tripping out here. Like, y'all was tripping doing all these crazy but everybody was doing it. And I'm like, it just showed herd mentality. Monkey see, monkey do.
You know what's crazy is I never heard the word herd mentality until the pandemic. to be honest. Like herd immunity. That was the first time I heard, like herd, of course, the word herd, but used in a term for people.
Yeah.
Like herd immunity, right?
Yeah.
Now I'm hearing the word herd from you, and it has nothing to do with immunity.
No.
It's just talking about a mindset.
It's a mindset.
So you're talking about Walking Dead. That's pretty much what it's become.
All right, for example.
Here we go.
In everything. If you for example, I'm going to bring it back to Hood 101. If you in the hood and somebody starts running, the whole block is taken off. Everybody is running. If one person, they do that all the time as a social experience in Black communities. One person starts taking off running, everybody is going. They don't know what they're running from, but they're like, I see you run, I'm going to run. It's that's just on the safety with us, and that goes way deeper into slavery and all of that. So that is really based in trauma, y'all. So we make a joke out of it.
You're saying Black folk just be like, he's running, I'm running.
Oh yeah, what?
But white people be like, what's the problem?
What's
here?
happening?
What's happening? Okay,
what's going on?
I can be honest. I've seen some of that happen
but
during
the thing
like
with white
things.
people is now about law and rules and regulation. So now Black people are running for safety. He's running because somebody is shooting. The police is coming, somebody's shooting, something is happening. We need to get out of here. Stat. But then when I talk about that traffic, if one person joins the line look at the supermarket, you go to the superstore, there's 10 lines open, but everybody joined this one line, and the one person finds it so hard to be like, I'm just going to go in the other line because I can't break rules. That's a very Canadian thing. In the Caribbean, we're defiant. We define everything. So we are like, wow, are you standing in the same line? But it's about culture. So herd mentality looks differently in different lands, but it's the same thing. Everybody's doing something. People either want to fall into one or two category. They want what everybody has or what nobody could get. It's one or the two. So most people either I want to be the top 1 percentile and feel like elitism, or I want to be involved in everybody and feel validated.
Where are we at?
For me?
No, where would you say, let's go just in our hometown, Calgary. Where are we at in that scale? Are we looking to be create something that nobody has?
No.
Or have what someone else wants or
I
has?
think Calgary just is very much so just fall in line and do what people do. I think.
Do you find us to be a creative city?
No.
No.
Absolutely not.
Those with wealth especially. Do you find that they have any creativity or?
No, but I won't knock Calgary. I think there's parts and things here, but I think it's just that overwhelming of not knowing and that over glazing of conservatism and all that stuff that's been the culture, the norm. And they pick and choose what type of culture they want to.
They do.
So when people say there's no culture, there is culture. Just what type of culture you're talking about.
You go past the zoo, it's a whole other world.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Like a lot of Calgarians don't drive past the zoo. Like you talk to most Calgarians that are like that live beyond the zoo to the south. Yeah. You're like, man, you drop things like Marlborough, Pine Ridge. You talk about Saddle Ridge. You talk about communities in the north that that exist, that are thriving, that there's half the city lives north. Yeah. How much of the city that lives south ever travel north? No. Non-existent. But they don't even know. But we're cultured. Yeah. We're very cultured.
It's culture, but again, what do you call culture? What I consider culture is not what someone else in Calgary might consider culture. True. My culture is very much so like feeling alive, feeling literally the music, the art, the depth, just all of that, the resiliency, the creativity, the love, the heart. Like I remember I was in Jamaica for 2 months. I went there in January. I was there till February, and my brother, we were driving to Portland, and my brother's car broke down in the middle of nowhere in the country, in the hills, and all these guys from out of and it's a hood. You could tell it's the hood too. They're coming, and he drives a nice little truck. And they're coming out like, what do you need, brother, man? Let me go get this for you. Like, I'm going to go down the store. I know so-and-so that owns the store. If you have the money, I'll go buy it. And they bought it, bring it back. Like, it was just a sense of like, we see somebody. If you're in Jamaica and somebody screams out for help, the whole community's coming out. Wow. They used to tell girls in school that if you're walking and somebody's chasing you, just scream fire or scream rape. The one thing you could do in that community is let men know that somebody's trying to like rape or molest a child. They will hunt you down. Like there's just a sense of like community. Like we fight, we argue, but that's what family does. So I could appreciate fighting and arguing when I feel like there's a family essence and there's a family backbone. But I'm not gonna fight with somebody and argue with somebody that I know you wouldn't have my back. We're not having any relation. So that is what I grew up with. I grew up in real culture, real family, real dynamic of what that is.
Sounds Italian.
Yeah, literally.
That's how I grew up.
That's how we grew up in the communities. Like literally our communities are like that. Like I remember my mom chasing some dude around the block because he talked to me too crazy. And she had to remind him, like, stop playing with me. But the next day, after he apologized, he was washing her car for her.
Respect.
And if somebody else tried to play me, he would have stepped in. That's just how I grew up in that type of culture. So it's different here. And I spend my entire time, like if I'm here, instead of complaining about things, I'm the kind of person
I was just about to say, you're putting a spotlight on some connotations that have occurred. And these are your perspectives. But you also did say, like, there is culture here. There are things here. You know, we do our best for the arts and music and all that. And, you know, although it is a learned behavior, it's a learned...
Not lived.
Not
learned,
lived,
but learned. Yeah.
And now here we are. It's 2022 is upon us.
Yeah.
We're obviously got a whole new generation of X and millennials that are now like the new hospitality scene, the new event scene, entertainment, new leaders, right? And, you know, even me at 46 now, I'm like, I look back and think about my leadership and the things that I've done in this city, and I look at where I am now. And I'm like, man, I'm in a responsible position right now. My platform is recognized. I'm known as a businessman and all sorts of shit. So I'm in a spot now where I think twice before everything I do, everything I say.
Yeah.
And I get caught up in things. I got caught up in the whole pandemic thing, and for like about a year, you know, I was putting on a lot of propaganda, negative propaganda, onto my social media stories about the news and about, like, you know, what's basically taking news clippings and putting them into mine and putting my satire on the news of what's happening in the pandemic, which was driving me a little nuts as a man like myself, free, white mountain man. I just, like, you know, just coming from a place like Thunder Bay, Ontario, where it's like, fuck you, like, you know what I mean? We don't like rules. We don't like to be told anything to do. And now I'm in a position in a conservative city, you know, and it's like living here is like, you know, you asked earlier, what are the keys, like some keys to business, and how do I improve business, and how do I become it? Like,
no, people, what I was trying to do is get Chris to be a mentor for me, and he was trying to dance around it. So I'm gonna put it on camera here. If you don't see Chris being my mentor, he hates me, and he doesn't really love me. So y'all need to spam his comment section. Mentor that girl. Give her the keys, give her the blueprint, teach her how to fish, literally and figuratively. Okay, what were you saying now?
You know, it's true though. Sharing experience, sharing wisdom, that's all part of growth.
Yeah.
Like to contain that.
And asking for it. I think a lot of people that I never had mentors. And I think the times
I'm kind of flattered and honored that you do.
No, but I think a lot of times when you ask people for mentorship, they find, I feel like a lot of people who should be my mentor finds me as their competitor. They find, I know, like they don't have to say it, but I could feel.
I feel that. That's a, and I don't know if that's a Calgary thing. I think that I find that here.
Yeah.
Because when I lived in LA, I didn't sign that in LA. Like if I, you know, hey man, we should align, we should work together. Yeah. Tell me how you're getting these open mics. Like how do you get around? Like how do you survive? How do you get these materials? How do you get to meet these promoters? And it was like, hey man, let me help you out. It didn't look at it because it was so big, it was so moving. Like the more you align, the more you put your energies and creativity together. And if everybody put their ideals aside and was like, hey, for the betterment of this community, we will thrive, we will rise.
The problem is when people find you as a competition because one, they know that where I'm coming from, my lens is not learned, it's lived. Yeah. So I don't want to put somebody real onto this because they gonna like what she got to say, how she gonna move more than me. Say. But a lot of people see that and it's like, I remember I don't like the word idol, but I love the great, the honorable Sean P. Diddy Combs. I love Diddy. I want to be. Not really, but I love P. Diddy.
Hey, Diddy Diddy brought the game to a new level.
Diddy, as much as Diddy like to take up half the song to just talk.
He did, though. He did.
Diddy, I was listening to Special Delivery a couple of days ago. I'm like, Diddy, if you don't shut your stupid ass up, not stupid, because Diddy's amazing. Diddy makes me want to wear a white fur coat in the middle of summer drinking Kool-Aid. Diddy makes you just want to just Diddy. And I was listening to a song he did with Pharrell called Get Loose. And he said, if somebody's doing better than me, I don't care, because they're going to be right where they should be, next to me. And I was just like, damn, Diddy, you done did it again. And that's the thing, like P. Diddy just moves around great. He wants to be around the
You start talking about
I know.
Diddy.
She's
like mentorship. Well, hey,
listen that. And a lot of, but that's the truth. Like I talk to people, and like people I know could help me go so further to put me on notes. They refuse because they're like, I can't put this girl on.
Yeah, hello, comedy.
I can't show her.
Yeah,
I can't introduce her to people. I can't tell her the way. I'm not gonna help her.
One moment.
He's
I've
gonna.
seen this cage come off and people get hit in the old face with one of these things.
But you don't. Yeah, just take it out that way. It could have broke your whole camera.
I aimed it away from the camera. She's like, we gotta work together. We gotta do this. She's like, LK, do you see what he just did? I would be a much better host of this show.
Somebody get LK's picture. LK, come on this camera. They need to see LK's face on this camera right now.
When people pop bottles, they're wild. There's music, there's all stuff going on.
He thought he was P. Diddy. He wanted to be in a rap video or something. LK, can you get on this camera? We need the people.
Come on, bro. I brought 3 glasses.
Let the people see your face. No, keep that same
I brought 3 glasses.
facial expression on the camera. As you're walking over here, turn to the camera so they can see.
Champagne all over my hands.
Let them see your facial. Look at the camera.
Chris, what are you doing to me?
Look at the camera.
This man framed the shot. Cheers, everyone. There we go. Yes. Cheers.
You have to make eye contact.
That's what I was trying to do there.
gotta
You look. See, she looked at you
You're
guys
good.
first.
I look.
Community first.
But you need to show people
That's good.
your facial expression that he made. Okay, was not impressed.
Let's go rub that champagne in my body.
Shower. What is it called? Champagne showers?
Champagne shower?
I don't think that's what that meant. I don't think that's what that meant, but you know.
I haven't had champagne in a minute.
But no, I feel like a lot of people like that could help me and put me on resources. Oh,
Pardon me.
what is going on with you today?
Well, I'm excited now.
Just they don't. And I'm like, I know you're not doing it because you don't know. I know you're not doing it because you don't want. You feel me. If you think you put me on, it's competition for you. But the problem with that is, you know, it might take me a little bit longer to get it, or a little bit longer to find out.
Yeah.
But when I'm gonna get it regardless. So you doing what you're doing, you're just now cutting yourself out of that picture because then there's no loyalty to you. As a loyal person, if you help me get somewhere and you put me on and you teach me how to fish instead of just trying to feed me a fish, I'm loyal to that.
Yeah.
But if I don't have to be loyal to you, when I get to where I'm going to get to.
When you eat and you're like, oh, you're spitting no bones, like, oh, that guy. You're like, that guy wasn't there.
And not even. It's just like you just not.
That's gloating.
And God does not like
You're
that.
bigger than that.
No, it's not that I'm bigger than that.
You're not bigger than that. I know.
wish I want to. I am, but because.
Well, sometimes a shark gotta sometimes leave that. You know, sometimes sharks gotta leave a little trail to let the other sharks know that it was his kill, right?
You know what though? Honestly, I'm not even gonna lie to you. It's not that I'm necessarily naturally bigger than that, but God hates it so much that every time I've ever done it, I've gotten the worst
Ramifications.
the worst convictions of my life. I've had God tell me, like, if you do it again, I will take everything from you.
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna lie to you.
So humble to the end.
So I don't have a choice. There's times in my spirit I'm like, yeah, you know, I did that. Big shoe. Yeah. And then he looking at me like, you want to keep, and I have to, oh, never mind. So there's nothing wrong with celebrating, but I don't sit and scheme on how I can shit on people if I make it.
That's exhausting, though.
It is, but there's people that does. I don't sit
That's an unnecessary burden you don't need to have, because those who do that, they as fast as they come up, they crash real quick.
for sure.
That's a quick and easy way.
Yeah.
You know, ultimately, like you talked about, like when you help others and you share with what you have, in comedy, it's a very
it's preventative.
Well,
like
no,
but
my art is very individual. Right. You on stage, you're only as good as your last show. Right. So if you have the crowd, you have the promoters, you have the social media content, you have the venue, when you have all the tools to succeed, but you don't share them, you're right. Because I'm very grateful that in the time that I was in comedy, I was able to put on a lot of people. Because those people have gone on to big things. They're on MTV, they've done big festivals. Like, you know, I was a part of that come up. And, you know, there's a lot of people that put other people before them. I did say Chris LaBelle Presents, and this is the show, and I hosted it. But I put these people on because I knew it took more than myself. And I had to put on people that were coming up in the game and show that recognition and show that talent and showcase people. And that's what I do on the show. Because I, you know, when I first started the show, you know, one of the things I learned was grounding myself. To hear the other person speak, to hear their opinions and share and listen. And in doing so, you know, I've learned a lot about people, and I've learned a lot about, like, I'm not the only one. I'm not the only guy in this mission. Like, I'm not the only guy who's trying to come up. So lately, I've been working on a community. I've been trying to build a community, and it's a community of people that just understand that if we work together, we'll achieve together, and we come up together. And that's how we all eat.
Exactly. And the problem is, like, it's not lonely. Like Drake said it, and it's so true. It really isn't lonely on the top, and you really don't need to be the only one that win. But I feel like people who take that mentality, like, I can't share, I can't teach, I can't show, is because you in yourself is not very comfortable or very confident in your own abilities. I think when somebody's confident in their ability and know that what is for them, they're not afraid to put you on. Because here's the thing, the game is free. The hustle is completely separate. I could put you onto everything, but if you're not willing to hustle and flip that 100 ways, then it don't matter. And if you hustle and you happen to have hustle me and beat me at my own game, it just means you were better at it than I was.
You worked harder.
You worked harder, or you were more talented.
And you earned it then.
Sorry, you're sometimes just more talented, and that's cool, because a part of your legacy is that you found somebody greater, and that makes you a leader in your time. But people don't look at it like that. You put somebody on that did better than you. They learned from their mistake.
Fire.
They learned your mistake, and then they flip that. Now you are the forefather. But until you put somebody on, you can't consider yourself a forefather. But a lot of people, like I said, they don't want to put people on simply because them in themselves is not only competition, they're not confident in their own ability.
Yeah, facts.
Somebody next week, next month, next year might start something like All Things Bossy. Am I going to, oh my God, I'm going to do what I need to do.
People are going to start podcasts. People are going to do comedy shows. People are going to start
But that's the thing. The thing with All Things Bossy is, you know, we going to do this. The thing is, I don't speak to and for all Black women.
What is your motto of your business?
For All Things Bossy, or just in general?
What is your synopsis for this company?
So All Things Bossy, we curate luxurious experience. I don't like call events, experience for Black women and women who supports them. So whether you're Black or not, if you know that when you enter a room and you come to an event for All Things Bossy, directly and indirectly, you're supporting Black women. By buying a ticket, you're supporting Black women. By being in the room, you're supporting Black women. And if you have a problem with being the minority in that case, then sweetheart, you have much more work to do.
What about men? Men come through these things?
I don't have men at my events for two reasons. One, I wanted to create a platform and a space that women could feel safe. And unfortunately, you know, when women show up there, they're showing up for this with one mind and idea is to get the resources and build community. But then sometimes when you have men that you don't know, you can't vet who you're inviting to the event. They might come and they're coming there for as
numbers.
A meeting.
They're trying to get some. They're Tinder, real life Tinder.
And then a meeting ground, and that's just not what we're about. And
it
then
changes
also,
the frequency. It changes
the frequency, because you're talking about relationship. You're talking about this. Like, I just wanted women to have something, and I think men should have something for themselves. I think Black men in the city should step up and try to create something for Black men, because men are, I think the statistic says 3 times more likely to commit suicide than women. Like, Black men need to experience joy and abundance just like Black women. That's how we heal and be better for our children or our generation. But I can't do it for me and do it for him. You know, I can't do it for me and do it for the men. So I need, the men in the city need to step up, or you know, you could just get married to me and we could just be
There we go back to the beginning.
Couple.
We go back to the beginning and become
over
a power
here getting
couple.
the whole husband on this. off this. But no.
So what she's trying to say is, if you're watching and you want to become a power couple, she is here with the champagne. All things that are bossy.
All things bossy brand.
All things bossy.
The all things bossy
The
brand.
all
The
I like the
all things bossy brand, and I'm very intentional of why I didn't just say the all things bossy or all things bossy. It's the one and only, and it's a brand because there's several entities that will be eventually built under it. And like I said, it's a community, not a company, so it can't just be one thing. It's a brand, it's a lifestyle, right? So that's what that is.
So if you were to leave and leave on a note, because you've already had some great things to say.
Like not my number on a note though? Not my number on a note. He missed the joke, y'all. I said not my number. You said leave on a note. I said like my number.
Oh.
Come on, comedian. What?
Listen, I'm busy.
Okay, what's happening over here?
I'm busy setting up my clothes right now.
Right. Okay, she focus. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Cool.
I'm trying to
Cool.
set up the clothes here, so we close cool, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, you've already said some very enlightening statements. You've already opened our eyes. You've already helped educate us on some of the actions going on and some of the movements that have been happening here in Calgary. You've talked about culture. You've talked about diversity. You've talked about some history. We've talked about religion. We've talked about your personal views. We've talked about your perspectives and what the future looks like.
Yeah.
What I ask you now is, if you're to leave on a particular subject or one last kind of perspective, if something you can share, because we are about to enter 2022.
Yeah.
If there's something you'd like to see change, and especially here in Calgary,
Yes.
because we live here, we thrive here, this is our base.
Yeah.
What can we do as Calgarians to improve, to make this city a better place, a better community, and how do we thrive as individuals? What is your perspective on that as we leave?
You know, I was saying this earlier on my Instagram, and I was talking to the people that follow me, and I said what I said to them is like, we have to start. I was watching a video with Steve Harvey, and he said we have to start putting pressure on ourselves. If you stay in your bubble, if you stay in the way that you do things, that's where you're going to fail. We have to start wanting more and wanting to be comfortable being uncomfortable. In order for us to progress and to scale and to move, it is so much better, and I'm saying this, not Steve Harvey, to fail forward than to stand still. It's better for you to try and it not work out in the way that you think it's going to work out than to stand still. You have to let go of the thought of mediocrity. Every city, every culture that you like, that you watch, that you benchmark, that you culture vulture off, it was out of the strive and the struggle and of the need of moving forward and basing in excellence and Black boy joy and Black girl joy and all the things that you love, whether it's Black culture, Indigenous culture, whatever you're seeing, it's the heart behind it that you see and you love. So I think taking that same ideology whether it is whether looking at race, looking at art, looking at music, push yourself. Whatever you think is a stumbling block, or you think that's the hump you just can't get over, push yourself. Put pressure on yourself. Don't allow yourself to tell yourself baby steps, because at some point that baby step needs to turn into walking, and then that walking needs to turn into running. In order for you to put all that you have in you out on this world, you cannot stand still. And you cannot just go about life, because life will go about you and it will beat your ass. So it's either you winning or life winning. You choose who gonna take the L.
Shit. I'm inspired.
And that's how we gonna leave it. TED Talks with Shu.
Yeah. And then it goes back to what you're saying about being idle.
So yeah. And I'm telling you, like, honestly, like, sorry?
No, that's it. You
just
brought it up idle, and then you killed it, and then you closed off with don't be idle.
Don't
and
be
you know what?
idle.
Our jiu-jitsu
Yeah.
is where we're at. We're at Alavanca Jiu-Jitsu Studio.
Yeah.
And the whole methodology and statement of jiu-jitsu is you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because it is not comfortable getting twisted up and going through the ligaments that we have to go through.
Yeah.
And that pressure is what builds and what makes you a better person. And I feel
if you have to bitch to it, ask my trainer. Tammy, shout out to you, girl. Shout out to my good sis Tammy, who's gonna watch this. Yeah. I complain. I bitch. Sometimes I can't come today. There's times in weeks, and even I'm gonna be real with y'all. Like, I'm not over here making it seem like I'm this constant go-getter, but it's like there's times where I have to put pressure on myself. It's not a linear journey I'm talking about. I'm not talking about just talking out my ass. Whether you are giving up for it, whether you drop, you fall, you cry, you keep going. Just keep going. Small steps, but after a while, those small steps do have to grow into bigger steps. But put pressure on yourself, invest in yourself. And I think if we all strive for excellency, my biggest thing for me is striving for excellency. And as I go, I want to do the best that I could do. And that is relative, because my best today might not be my best tomorrow, because I have to take into all types of things in consideration. But I'm going to give you my best. You feel what I'm trying to say? So excellency is what we should strive for. And if the city strives for that, we on. Next year, mayor.
Yeah. Well, 4 years.
I would never be mayor in the city. That's another conversation.
That's a
Next time on
Chris. That's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation.
Shu, thank you for being on the
Thank
show.
you for finally.
I've only had 20 episodes. Finally get me on. That was amazing. I appreciate the conversation.
I love it. That's exactly what I needed.
All right, there you guys have it. Words of advice, little future advice for the city of Calgary, and let's hope this new mayor can make things happen for us. Now with that, that's our show. We gotta drink this champagne now.
Yes. It's great.
That's it.